This concerns an F-16 fighter aircraft which has held a central role in the United States Air Force since the 1970s. Now, this aircraft is accessible to multiple nations' military forces due to US authorization. The situation emerged following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urgently appealed for this aircraft, but the US President Joe Biden said Ukraine doesn't need it anymore. This might appear surprising considering the substantial military aid amounting to almost $47 billion that the US has already extended to Ukraine in the past year. This aid exceeded the support given to even close allies in 2020 and was over 4 times the assistance provided to Afghanistan's military during the zenith of the US-led conflict there. This sum is historically unprecedented, representing an amount usually spread across decades of support. However, the US decision not to provide the F-16s warrants analysis, as the weaponry supplied and its timing played a pivotal role in shaping various stages of the war. Consequently, the nature of aid extended by the US to Ukraine and the underlying reasons demand examination. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine with assistance from Ukrainian separatist fighters. Many Ukrainian troops lacked proper uniforms and even basic provisions. Ukraine's leadership sought help from the US, yet President Barack Obama dispatched protective gear and supplies rather than weaponry. In 2018, President Donald Trump agreed to send a limited number of anti-tank missiles named Javelins. Despite this, the Ukrainian military remained ill-equipped to counter a potential escalation by Russia, which eventually occurred in 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion. Russian airstrikes and missile strikes inflicted substantial damage from the air, while Russian tanks pushed Ukrainian forces backwards. Ukraine once again appealed to the US for assistance. From the outset of the conflict, Ukraine desired various items currently available for consideration. This included F-16s and main battle tanks. President Joe Biden consented to sending a significant package of weaponry, although it primarily comprised less advanced and relatively simple types. The US dispatched additional Javelin missiles along with ammunition, firearms, and even anti-aircraft missiles such as Stingers. Comparable weaponry was also contributed by numerous US allies. For instance, Germany supplied 1,000 anti-tank missiles and 500 Stingers, while Belgium provided 2,000 machine guns. However, notably absent were advanced battle tanks and fighter jets from all contributors. Initially, the primary concern wasn't only centered around the nature of assistance the US was providing, but whether Ukraine would effectively engage in combat. The resounding answer was affirmative. Ukrainian soldiers utilized anti-aircraft missiles to counter Russian aerial dominance. The supplied firearms, ammunition, and anti-tank weaponry hindered Russia's advance, evident in footage showing Ukrainian soldiers destroying numerous approaching Russian tanks. While the Ukrainians effectively deployed these weapons, the US hesitated to provide more sophisticated equipment. Throughout the conflict, the US expressed apprehension about the possibility of Russia escalating the situation. The US feared that if Ukraine possessed advanced weapons like fighter jets or long-range missiles, they might target Russia, provoking an escalation. This concern significantly influenced the manner in which the US furnished support to Ukraine. By spring 2022, the conflict entered its second phase, characterized by less mobility and more artillery exchange between the Russian and the Ukrainian forces. Russia was launching a staggering 60,000 artillery rounds daily compared to Ukraine's 6,000 rounds, putting Ukraine at a disadvantage. Yet, the US was cautious about broadening the scope of its assistance, meticulously evaluating the practicality of each item requested. Finally, in April 2022, the US agreed to supply Ukraine with its artillery. Simultaneously, several allies also contributed artillery, though some had been considering it earlier. The US's most significant contribution was the HIMARS rocket launcher, capable of targeting location up to 80 kilometers away. Although not capable of striking within Russia, these launchers enabled Ukraine to hit Russian supply depot and command center far behind the front lines. Consequently, Russia was compelled to withdraw these positions, weakening its troop at the front. This strategic shift facilitated Ukraine's capture of the Kharkiv region in September and the major city of Kherson in November. Winter 2023 marked the commencement of a new phase, wherein both sides prepared for renewed offensives. Russia aimed to advance further into Donetsk and Luhansk region, while Ukraine sought to regain territory, especially in the south. Achieving this objective required rapid troop movements necessitating armored vehicles like tanks. Despite months of appeals, the US postponed supplying advanced tanks, anticipating Germany's initiative to send Leopard battle tanks. This delay resulted from a mutual expectation from the other party to act first. Finally, in January 2023, the UK and subsequently the US agreed to send their advanced tanks, spurring Germany and other allies to follow suit. In this manner, just like with anti-tank missiles and HIMARS, the US and its allies hoped that these tanks would facilitate decisive victories for Ukraine in the ongoing phase. As of now, the prevailing question concerns Ukraine's ability to reverse the tide and extent of additional assistance the US can offer. The US has approved sending F-16 fighter jets from Denmark and the Netherlands as soon as the pilot training is completed, as these aircraft could shield Ukraine's tanks from Russian air attacks, significantly enhancing its offensive capabilities. Moreover, Ukraine's request for long-range missiles called ATACMS, capable of targeting positions up to 300 kilometers behind enemy lines, has gained support from a few allies. However, the US continues to hesitate, driven by familiar concern regarding the readiness of Ukrainian forces to handle such advanced weaponry and the potential implications of employing them. Remarkably, none of these decisions to supply these weapons have prompted Russia to escalate its action. Additionally, Poland and Slovakia's commitment to send older fighter jets in March has opened the door to a potential approval for F-16s, which has already been done now, but also long-range missiles can be approved in the near future. Nevertheless, despite over $46 billion in military aid, public opinion in the US is shifting. A recent Pew Research poll indicated an increasing proportion of people, especially among right-wing constituents, believing that the US has provided excessive aid to Ukraine. President Biden faces mounting pressure from both within his party and rival Republicans, particularly in light of the upcoming 2024 election. This escalating pressure could potentially impede Biden's capacity to maintain the current pace of assistance. Furthermore, even if support for sending weapons endures, there may be constraints due to the dwindling availability of certain supplies necessary for US war planning. Consequently, the US is now emphasizing strategies to enhance domestic and allied weapons production as well as production within Ukraine. However, the establishment of new production facilities is a time-consuming process that could span several years. In the span of 1 year, US and allied assistance has contributed to the transformation of the Ukrainian military into a formidable force, effectively holding its ground against a much larger Russian counterpart. Yet, as the battleground evolves and US political dynamics shift, the critical question revolves around Ukraine's capacity to effectively wield its available resources and the extent of ongoing US assistance it can rely upon.